Hi, I'm Dr. Janice Morrow. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Mood Swings, where we talk about the brain and all things related to mental health. Welcome. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of American Mood Swings. I'm Dr. Janice Morrow, and today's guest is Dr. Farha Abbasi. She is a professor at the University of Michigan in psychiatry, and she also is
Actually, sorry, Michigan State University.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, Michigan.
Wrong color.
Oh, sorry, Michigan State University. And
yeah, it's Michigan State. Yeah.
Okay, Michigan State. And she is the director of the Muslim Mental Health Consortium, which is a yearly event where people gather from all around the country to talk about Muslim mental health and things pertaining to that. So I'm so grateful she's here. And I felt like this was a very timely discussion because of world events in just the last like 6 months, well, really longer than that. The last year, we've had this war in Israel and Gaza, which has been devastating, which has led to all protests all around the United States, which has been terrifying for people on both sides. And just a couple weeks ago, there were these riots in the UK. There was a couple little girls murdered. So there's extremists that are attacking the Muslims, which has brought them worldwide attention. And then we've also got Bangladesh, where there's conflict between the Muslims and the Hindus, which I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I know that there's a lot of conflict. So it just feels like there's a lot of tension in the world with many religions clashing. And I don't have any Muslim friends. I'm 57 years old. I have a couple acquaintances at the gym to swim with, and I'm embarrassed to say that. And so I'm just so grateful. I want to get Dr. Abbasi's thoughts on what's going on in the world and what her thoughts on how we could change things and move it in, change the discourse and move it in another direction. So thank you.
So first of all, Janice, thank you for the opportunity. And I know we have been trying to connect forever. So I'm really grateful to finally connect and have a really candid heart-to-heart conversation. I think when I do a lot of interfaith reading and kind of trying to, as a psychiatrist, of course, as a cultural psychiatrist, as a faith-based mental health practitioner, I think that is very integral for me to understand the perspective everybody's coming in with. And what's really breaks my heart is no religion is teaching you hate. If we go to the nitty-gritty or integral principles of every religion, every faith, it's talking about humanity, respect for human life, love, peace, and no religion is teaching you bigotry or hate. So where does this hate comes in name of religion is when I feel that the hate kind of uses religion as a tool, right? So when you mix religion with try and politicize it or use it for other purposes, then rather than connecting to God and loving your brother in humanity, you are using it as a war tool. So forever, when I do this peace work, my message always is don't turn in any regional conflict into a holy war. So even if we look at Gaza, the main perpetrators or seems like the conflict is between two major faiths, but that's not true. It's a regional conflict where you have not only Muslim, Jewish population, you have Christians there, you have Druze there, you have Baha'is there. So there are many religious communities that are getting impacted by this. But it wouldn't get that kind of leverage or impact until unless we, if we start using jargons like they versus us, good versus evil. So in mental health, we always learn, and especially in trauma-informed care, we always work with that. Even if you see bad behaviors, you say, this individual, this person is behaving bad, but you don't say you are a bad person. So I wish we can all take a step back and go to the spirit of what each faith and religion is teaching us and use it to come together and heal each other rather than to hurt.
Well, I know there's a lot, but maybe you could just share some of the tenets and message of Islam, because I know
Sure.
that a lot of people I actually just a couple months ago, I was at an art show down at the beach, like one of those art fairs, and there was somebody passing out the Qurans, which I've never seen. You see other faiths, missionary
Yeah.
work. I've never seen this ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I grabbed
Yeah.
one. I have it translated, but and I'll just be frank, because for people, most people are not real familiar with the tenets. And so there are these stereotypes. We see the Taliban or Hamas or like, okay, I grew up Christian. I was raised Mormon, which is a sect of Christianity, but my mother was Jewish. I was not raised Jewish, but my blood is Jewish. So when I see what's happened here at the universities, I can understand both sides. I don't know the history of that part of the world very well, but the Jewish blood in me is like terrified when I see the protesters, but when they've got the scarf around their face, it's terrifying. People get scared and they see that, and then but it's not reflective of all Muslims. And just from researching you on the internet and listening to many, I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of, everybody thinks they're all Arabs. I'd love for you to just talk about the diversification, and then just
So,
the
yeah,
tenets.
sure. Let me start with the tenets of Islam. So we believe in oneness of God, but what is very integral and important for you to be a practicing Muslim is that you have to be of competent mind. So mental clarity and competency is very integral. So you can be born in a Muslim household, but for you to be considered a practicing Muslim, you have to understand, think you are a Muslim. You have to have that mental clarity to understand what being a Muslim means. You say you are a Muslim. We say Shahada. We say no God but God. And Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. You have to say it. You have to believe it. And you have to behave. So there is a whole protocol of being a Muslim, right? So every part of it has to be followed. But when I see that what has been politicized in Islam, like what people have politicized about Islam, the Sharia law, right? The Sharia law, the word Sharia has been used as a political jargon, right? Or like kind of a jihadi slogan. In fact, Sharia is very basic. Sharia is preservation of life, preservation of faith, preservation of akal, which is your mental intellectual, preservation of property, preservation of family, children. So it's very basic that you preserve your faith, you preserve your life. So live the best life possible. You preserve family, you preserve property, you preserve your mental clarity. So imagine how important this mental clarity in religion is, that anything that can impact you or take away your mental clarity or decision-making capability is either prohibited or discouraged, like alcohol or any addictive substances, or even extreme emotions like anger. Even anger is discouraged. Then when we go to the tenets, of course, you have 5-time prayers. You have first the belief, then 5-time prayers, and these 5-time prayers actually it goes with the sun movement, sunrise to sunset,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that.
these
Okay, I didn't.
yeah, it goes with the sun. So you start with the morning prayer, is just before dawn or as dawn starts. And then you do noon prayer, evening, when the sun is starting to go down, then after sunset, and then late night before bedtime. And the idea behind it is that you continue to take, it's first of all, this is the way we say our prayer incorporates a lot of yoga into it. So you are physically moving your body, you are stretching, you are kneeling, you are bowing. So physically, it's all yoga. And before you start the prayer, you do the vazu, which is you are cleansing yourself with water. You are supposed to run water. But what I realized, the way it is done, you are basically running water on all your pressure points. So you are doing cleanliness, you are doing detoxifying, you are relaxing yourself. So 5 times during the day, you are taking break from your everyday stress, concerns, pressures, whatever you are doing. So you are taking a break, you are physically exercising, and you are meditating. So you are reciting Quranic verses. So you are doing meditation. But the beautiful part is that you are doing it with family, with friends, or in a congregation, which is very an exercise in equity. So you are not standing there on virtue of the rank that you belong to or the virtue of the age. You are just told to stand shoulder to shoulder. But another piece of that communal prayer is to be aware of each other, to keep the connections. So from when I started looking at things from mental health perspective, I realizes 3 pieces are very integral, right? Wellness. Everything in Islam is either about invested in your own wellness or extended that wellness to others around you, to your community, to society, to the environment. So it becomes from wellness, it becomes welfare, because you are extending that wellness to others, it turns into welfare. But in the end, it's all supposed to be brought back to in the community. And how you define community is not only your blood kin or community by religion, it could be community by location. So individual wellness translating into wellness of the family, and then that family wellness contributing to the wellness of the society. That's the ripple effect. So for us, the circle, completing the circle is very important. So you will see that. So first thing I said was Shahada, saying the prayer, the belief that I believe in God, no God but God, and then Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. Then you say 5-time prayers. Then you are supposed to fast for 30 days of Ramadan. Again, 3 concepts, if you see: wellness, you are detoxifying your body; welfare, you are becoming aware how it feels to go without food, but you are also encouraged to then extend, like, do not eat by yourself, share your meals with others, find out who's going hungry, give your food and money and resources, share them with those who do not have, right? So that's fasting. And then comes the kind of monthly contribution or yearly contribution of zakat, mandatory monetary contribution, that be comfortable, spend on yourself, but if you have extra, give certain amount of it is mandatory for you to share with others.
Like a tithing. Like in a Christian faith, we would call that, in our church, we were brought up to give like 10%. So
Right.
most more, it's a tithe, but it's all, like you said, to share God's blessings. Yeah. So you have something,
Yes.
I've never heard this about the Muslims.
Yeah, it's called zakat. So it's mandatory money that we give out. And then, of course, last is the pilgrimage or Hajj that we go to Saudi Arabia. And that's called Kaaba or House of God. And even wherever in the world we are praying in the direction of Kaaba. And the once in a lifetime, it's, if you can afford it, it's encouraged to at least visit Kaaba and do complete Hajj one time. So when we are doing Hajj, we are also tracing the steps of Hagar. Hagar was left in the desert by Ibrahim. So she had a child. So we believe that Ishmael was the child born to Hagar, and then Sarah had Isaac. So Sarah was very old. Sarah was not having a child. So Sarah had this maid, Hagar. She encouraged Hagar to have her husband's child. That's where, but when she became pregnant, Sarah could not take it and asked Ibrahim to leave her in the desert. And she went, and then that's where when Hagar was running, looking for water. And that's, those are the steps we trace, Hagar's journey. But we also, the point that I see, if we see Christianity and Judaism separating, Judaism and Islam separating. So we are all Abrahamic faiths, right? We all originated from the same father. But where we see the separation in the text happens is that when Abraham is asked to sacrifice a child, we believe it was Ishmael, and Judaism believes it was Isaac.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So Sarah had Isaac, while Hagar had Ishmael. So Judaism started from children of Isaac, and Islam started from the children of Ishmael.
So interesting. Okay. I didn't know any of this.
Yes.
So
So
that's
we are the same people. So even if we go deeper into anti-Semitism, the word anti-Semitic, so if we look at the word Semite, it's all the people of the region, right? Even Arabs are Semitics. It's not, yeah, they are, because it's very interesting to me that how we are using anti-Semitism, thinking that it's Arabs are anti-Semitic. Actually, Arabs are Semites too. So when we look at this country, America, there is more Christian Arabs came here. So they were Arabs, but they were Christians. So here, most of the Muslims are not Arabs.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I heard that in one of your talks. That would shock most people because
Yeah.
I'm not
So interestingly, right now we have a mix of like Muslims who are born here, and they could be Arabs, they could be South Asian, but a major portion is also Black Americans.
On that note, I just wanted to, for the listeners, out there, I didn't realize this. So I didn't realize that a lot of Muslims are Black or Africans. And one of my all-time favorite comedian, who's probably the most popular comedian in the world,
Dave
Dave Chappelle.
Chappelle.
And
Yeah.
I've heard all of his specials, and I have never heard him. He did an interview with David Letterman a couple years ago on a Netflix show called My Next Guest, and he mentioned,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I just about fell off the couch because he doesn't, I guess he's just private about that, but it was really
Yeah. He
fascinating.
converted, and that's where I think he left the TV show.
Oh, maybe that has
I
something.
think I've read
Oh,
somewhere that's
okay.
where,
Yeah,
yeah,
he does not discuss that a lot, why he left.
yeah.
But okay, if
So,
there was a change in his heart.
so that's another thing. Islam is not foreign to America. That's the biggest thing that we need to dispel. There were Muslims, so we can trace Muslims back to where you see the indigenous uh, contracts have Muslim names, like, so they are working with the native population. But even when we see that when the slaves were brought to America, almost 30% were Muslims. So if you look at the book, The Root, Kunta Kinte, the protagonist, is actually Muslim. And the book roots talk about prayers and pagans, and so they are Muslims, right? So you 30% of the slaves were Muslim, so you had that indigenous population there. But if there were not enough Muslims in the country, then why would Jefferson buy the holy book Quran? He studied the Quran before writing the Constitution.
That was new information. I just heard in one of your.
Yeah, so Jefferson's that Quran is actually in the one of the DC museums where, and it's used when Muslims get elected. So when they take the oath, they take oath on that Jefferson Quran. I can't recall. I think it was Rashida Tlaib who did it, or one of the elected members did take oath on that Quran. But Jefferson wanted religious pluralism in the country. He wanted that and understood the importance. And he read the Quran, and actually he talks about it, how he took a lot of concepts of Quran and infused it into the Constitution.
Like, can you give a couple of?
Like and I can
It's very fascinating
it's like universal brotherhood, laws of justice and equality, and there are a lot of things that if you research you will find out, but they are very much reflected in the Constitution. So then the concern came that even at that time, the concern came that if you keep religious pluralism, then what if a Mohammedan becomes a president? And that's where the amendment came, right? That then came the amendment that let's separate religion and state. And because there was concerns even then that what if a Muslim becomes a president? So, but he kept it religious pluralism. He believed in that, Jefferson did. And he understood the importance. So it's not that 9/11 brought Islam or Islam brought 9/11. I think that's a very big myth that we have to dispel. If you go to Arlington Cemetery, you will see Muslim names as far as in the Civil War, you would see Muslim names. So they're buried in Arlington Cemetery. Then even if we come to, I think one thing happened that the the Black Islam that kind of was identified with civil rights movement. So at that time also people felt that it's the religion, right? Because you had Malcolm X, he converted, he became Muslim. And then, so there was all this movement, Black Muslim movement happening along with civil rights movement.
What?
So if we come to present day, to even 9/11, people don't know or don't want to know or don't comprehend fully that there was a mosque that got destroyed. there were a lot of Muslims who died. And I know personally my friend, her son was missing and was declared the terrorist. And then we find out that he actually had gone in to rescue.
Oh,
He was working with the he was just starting med school and he was working with EMS. He was getting trained as EMS and he ran in to help people. And they couldn't find him. And for a month, people harassed them as parents of a terrorist until they find out that his remains were found in the like one of the towers. And yeah, it's a very sad story, and I can send you the link to it. So there, I think, first of all, we are very interwoven and integrated. American history is Muslim history as well. So it's not that Islam is foreign or Islam has just come. We have been here forever. Since the beginning of America, we have been here. Even now, if you look at 5% of your physicians are Muslim, then you have teachers, firefighters, army, National Guards. So it's not, but it's like any other religion. Nobody would know who a Muslim is, because when we say we don't know a Muslim, right? Or I even had a politician running for a big candidacy saying that, oh, I've never met a Muslim. And I was like, how would you know if you have met a Muslim, right? The thing is, because you are looking for an Arab, you are looking for that cookie cutter image of a Muslim. Right now, one of the fastest growing Muslim population are Latinos.
oh,
So, we
great.
don't come in one shape, size, or language or culture. It's as broad as any other religion. It depends. So I take the example of the river, right? River flows through different countries, but it's the same river, but every country adapts it like and say this is ours, right? But it is same river, right?
Great analogy.
But the concept of community is so important in Islam. We call it ummah. So that's why even if a conflict is happening in Palestine, or a conflict is happening in Bangladesh, or a conflict is happening anywhere in the world, it kind of impacts. The vicarious trauma is transmitted and carried by every other Muslim, because the sense of ummah and brotherhood on religion, basis of religion, is very ingrained in all of us. So we have our we are very diverse, very we have different sects, we are very diverse, we have different cultures, different languages, but this bond of the Muslim brotherhood, the ummah, that is very integral and important to all of us.
It's beautiful. Well, just yesterday there was a video that went viral in Gaza. There was, I guess, a strike on a hospital. So there was a man whose wife he had twin babies. They had just been born.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
I mean, when I saw that, my eyes were watering up. I mean, as humans, how could anybody of any faith not feel? I mean, he was just literally
So,
weak.
I,
You saw the video, right?
yeah, I mean, it's,
We all have families. We all have parents. Most people have kids or nieces and nephews, and to see that, I just like, how does this stop? I don't know how this stops. I don't know how this hate. It only seems to be getting worse. Do, let's. How would you? You're a mom of three daughters, if I've heard that correctly in some of
yeah, yeah.
so let's talk about like how you teach them to deal with this, like if there's this Islamophobia or maybe increasing rhetoric, how to the mental health to stay grounded and get through it. Because, and I think I heard in one of your discussions that you had just arrived like shortly before 9/11, so you were feeling a lot of this anti
Yeah.
and it must have been scary.
A defining moment for me.
uh,
So, when you look at the literature from racism, or when I have talked to somebody impacted or carrying the intergenerational trauma of racism, the first thing they always say is fly under the radar, don't bring attention to yourself. And especially as a safety tool, that's what one of my Black friends was telling me, that you teach your kids never to bring attention to yourself, don't engage, don't answer back, things like that, right? Passivity. We teach passivity, we teach invisibility.
oh.
What I wanted to change the narrative around that. I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to be validated, I want to be felt. So I chose the opposite path. When 9/11 happened, there was a lot of community conversation. Don't speak in your native language, don't wear your like traditional clothes. But I think that doesn't never serves a purpose. I actually wanted to become more visible
Oh.
and transparent, and because I had nothing to hide. So what do I teach my daughters? First of all, what I made sure that I believe and I practice is you never hate in name of religion and God. You can only love. I know it's not gonna protect you, but I feel it empowers you. So what I'm teaching my kids is that be in faith, understand your religion, but first, most important thing is be a good human. To me, being a good human has to be the utmost goal of any religion. So, like you said, the twins, or when you read a child being disabled, maimed, or killed every 10 minutes, it doesn't matter what faith that child is, what color that child is. We should all be revolted and revulsed by this happening around us. How can you stand back and say that child deserved it, or somebody did this and the child had to pay the price? No child has to pay that price, or should never have to pay that price. As a student of history and philosophy, I always go back and think, how did Holocaust happen? How could people let Holocaust happen? And now I'm seeing how easy it is to turn a blind eye and become apathetic and just stop, not care, because it's not happening to you. But remember, it's irrespective of who it's happening to. You pay the consequences. The world will pay the consequences of this hate. The society will pay a price for what we are letting happen right now.
When you, because you're a mom of three, when you first got here, did you like make an effort to have your children like play with kids from other faiths? Because like, again, because I'm 57 and I just never, I wasn't, I had, I mean, Muslim acquaintances in school. I can't recall any right now, but definitely college and work, like a couple people from the gym. But really, I can't help but think if we were playing together as kids, or there's just this more of an effort to integrate and that either
Absolutely.
you would just love because you know them and you're not removed and you see that we're more similar. But I didn't have that. How
All
was
the
it?
time.
How was
I
it?
don't think they segregate or separate on basis of religion at all. My house was always open. I have very dear close friends from all faiths, and we even had a group of Abrahamic sisters. I have one of my closest mentors are of Jewish faith. My daughter's friends, they're from all backgrounds, all faith, all color, all religion. Everyone is welcome in my house, and so with my daughters. We never like I think I go back to me, faith is a unifying thing, not a divisive thing. And I never practiced my faith as a divisive. It to me, when I say Rahmatul Alameen, that's the verse of Quran. It means blessing for the universe.
Oh,
So my God is a blessing for the universe. If God is saying that, then who am I to think, oh, only we are getting blessed? And I think every religion is the path to the same summit. Ultimate goal is the same, right? Whatever path we are taking, whatever way, however we are praying, we are moving to the same goal. But even in Islam, it's so interesting that will forgive you your sins committed against him or her. Like, now we forever we have in Abrahamic religion taken genderized God as him.
ah,
Yeah. So, but God will forgive sins committed against him or her. But God will not forgive sins committed against humanity. So you can't even hurt an individual. You cannot speak harshly. You cannot be aggressive. You can't put allegation. You cannot lie. You cannot slander about another person. All
all
that is so strongly prohibited.
all
How
good
would,
things, all good things. Kind of like the
right? And how would you be forgiven for taking a human life? In fact, it says that if you save a human life, you are saving, sorry, what's the word? You are saving humanity. If you save one life, you are saving humanity. Then we come to the war, the rules of war in Islam. You are never supposed to attack. You are supposed to defend. And you're never supposed to fight where collateral damage can be other civilians. You always have to go out in the fields or far away from population and far away. So not only don't harm civilians, don't harm animal, don't harm the trees.
oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
And so to me, when we talk of Taliban or ISIS or other religious fanatic groups, you have had Ku Klux Klan, KKK in this country. You
Absolutely.
have had Christian crusaders. So there, in every religion, when again politics, power grabbing is done in name of religion, you distort the religion. So there's a professor at Michigan State University, Muhammad Khalil. He even looked at what parts of Quran Taliban were using and how they were distorting the meaning and how. So to me, they are not representing any religion. Barbarism has no religion. To me, what's happening in Gaza, I don't think that's being done in true spirit of any religion. It's pure barbarism. It cannot have a religion. I will not associate what is heinous acts are being committed, I would not associate it with any religion, as I don't associate ISIS with Islam or Taliban with Islam.
Good. Yeah. Well, I mean, sadly, that's what a lot of people think of. They don't, you presented so much information that I didn't know about Islam, and those are like, well, it would be awful. Like you brought up the KKK, for people to look at Christianity and that's their only image, men in white robes carrying burning crosses. So and sadly, that is what a lot of Americans, you see the Hamas, you see, the Afghan girls not being allowed to go to school and or outside of the house, and it makes everybody scared, and maybe that's contributing to all this hate.
I don't know how much one of the reasons I immigrated from Pakistan, and I was, not that I don't love being in America, or I call myself American by choice. I'm a very proud American, but I was a very reluctant immigrant. I did not want to immigrate. I didn't want to leave my country. But even if we talk about Taliban, what's the origin of Taliban? So I was in Pakistan, and my father was in the federal, like he was a secretary of information for federal government. So I know firsthand the history of Taliban. It was the democratic government in Pakistan was removed, and army general took over, General Zia. And at the same time, Russia invaded Afghanistan. So America could not go and fight Russia. It would have started a war between Russia and America, right? So these are the days of Cold War. So, but you couldn't leave Russia unchecked. They were trying to get to the ports, and like they wanted to take over Afghanistan, right? So this general, and I don't know if you have seen Charlie Wilson's Private War. Have you
No.
seen the movie?
No.
That's a congressman from Texas.
Okay.
And he went and kind of created this whole thing that America through Pakistan would fight this war in Afghanistan. So first of all, the Uzi gun, that's an Israeli gun, was going to be adapted into another gun. Money was going to be paid by Saudi Arabia, and then you would give this to Pakistan, and then Afghani fighters would come and get these guns. But these guns did not have made in America. It had, I think, made in Israel, paid by, but you see Saudis, Israeli, Americans, they all sat together and made this, and it's all, you can see it in Charlie Wilson's War as well. So that gun was Kalashnikov. We were living, Pakistan had a very moderate culture, very moderate. We were religious, but everything was in moderation, right? Education, woman independence. Overnight, we started seeing these Kalashnikovs. These Kalashnikovs were being smuggled to Afghanistan or supplied to. But then the war continued for 10 years, and you needed manpower to continue this war. So then came the idea to turn this into a religious war, open this Islamic seminary kind of, where these children were being recruited, and Taliban simply means student.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Taliban is the word, literally means student. So you were recruiting students who were given this religious training to become a jihadi and to go fight the infidels, which were Russians. But behind the scenes, so Pakistan suddenly has Kalashnikovs. But again, another thing happened. How could you sustain such an expensive war? So a blind eye was turned toward poppy cultivation.
Poppy? Oh, poppy.
Yeah, opiates.
Okay, okay.
So very high quality opium was being exported to the world. And but where was it going through? Again, through Pakistan. And who was accepting then all the refugees fleeing from Afghanistan? Pakistan had anyhow had very porous borders with Afghanistan. So, and then because it was a holy war, we opened and started accepting these refugees. Pakistan lost its like its whole structure, infrastructure of Pakistan changed. 10 years of war impacted us, where you had all these new refugees come in, you had guns come in, you had drugs come in. So right now, but after 10 years, when Russia started to recede, Russia left and Americans left. But the war ended, but the battle so you had these Talibans who had been fighting this war and only knew guns and this distorted form of religion. The lethal combination, where would they go? America didn't have an afterthought like policy. And if you remember in Charlie, I mean, you should see Charlie
I
Wilson's
will. I'll
movie.
watch it now.
The movie, the last words is that Charlie Wilson is trying to go and rehabilitate. Is saying, now, are we going to do any reforms or what are we going to do? And they said, no, we won the war. That's it for us. That's it. But those are the gaping gaps in foreign policy. Pakistan became like a hub for violence, and these guns found like were in nefarious hands. So they started kidnapping people. They were kidnapping. There was, first of all, suddenly we had become very fanatic. Religion came in, and you had, I mean, it was like crime rates were out of control. For moderates like me, it had become a nightmare to raise my daughters in a peaceful way. In order for us we all needed guns to protect ourselves. And I was not a believer in guns, but just to send my kids to school, you had to send them with a gunman to keep them protected.
Was it hard getting out and coming here? How was that?
No, actually, interestingly, we got the green card in the lottery system. So I had not even thought that I would leave the country. It was getting very scary and hard. And we got the green card. And then, of course, but even after the green card, when I came here, I was like, no, let's just come and see. But I wasn't ready. We went back unless I think we came, got the green card, we went back, and I was like, no, I'm not mentally ready to move. But then they give you a deadline that if you're not gonna avail the green card, then you have to give it up. And by that time, the conditions had gone so bad in Pakistan that we decided to move here. And immigration is very traumagenic, even out of choice. It was the hardest, most painful decision. You give up so much. Like I felt after coming here, although I spoke English, I had been visiting America, But when I finally came here, I felt like somebody has cut my hands and feet and thrown me in the corner and told me like, wait for it to grow back.
Oh,
So
oh, wow, wow,
it
wow.
was very painful. I wasn't a psychiatrist then. I was internist from back home. So if I had been a psychiatrist, I would definitely would have diagnosed myself with depression. It was a lot of despair. I wasn't mentally ready. And then, of course, 9/11 happened. And that 9/11 actually gave me my purpose and gave me a meaning that I remember I had a parent teacher meeting that day, and I'm watching this unfold. So you remember, I left my country to get away from this violence, right? And this extremism. And then you are watching on TV that the Twin Towers are being attacked and they're taking names Muhammad and all that, which is like very scary for me as from Muslim perspective, from a mother's perspective. And I'm still reeling from the impact of immigration. I still am overwhelmed. And then suddenly you are being accused of something that you have
Nothing to do with, yeah.
actually the reason I'm here in this country because I'm running away from that, right? So I remember I had a parent teacher meeting and I went to the school and I had tears running down my face without even realizing. And the teacher got up and hugged me and said, "It's okay, we will get through this." And I was like, wow, that we made me an American in an instant.
Oh, wow.
No amount of paperwork or immigration process made me, or learning American history. You have to learn American history to be able to get the green card, right? They quiz you about American history. So I never felt an American before that moment, but that we kind of spurred me, made me realize that I really will have to and just like work towards this goal of finding, you know, dispelling this myth about Islam, about Muslims. But I'm not doing it as a Muslim, or I'm not doing it as a Pakistani. I'm doing it as this is my duty as an American citizen. Creating peace here is as much as my priority as to see peace anywhere else in the world.
Do you notice now with so much rhetoric, and you're a therapist now, are people feeling more comfortable, the shame and the stigma about coming and talking to someone to get through it? Like you were just saying in that moment, that hug from her, we'll get through this. I know that certain cultures, even here in, I mean, American culture, a lot of people still, there's like a stigma to go to therapy. Like, I don't want to be crazy.
Yeah,
Do people
no,
feel more
that's where
comfortable?
my Muslim Mental Health Conference came in. We have been doing it, it's in its 17th year.
Oh,
It's
okay. Wow. I thought it was
yeah,
just a
it's
couple years.
only conference of its kind, very academic in nature and religious in sensibility. So we are not teaching religion, but we are using faith and faith leaders as fighting stigma and in the healing. Definitely huge change, huge change. People are more accepting, wanting to access care. I think right now my biggest problem is we don't have religious and culturally appropriate care available. So, and there is a very deep-seated trust deficit in minoritized setting already in America with any institution. And the one way it comes out is that people in any minoritized settings are hesitant to access care.
Oh,
Yeah, we see that in Black community, we see that in South Asian community, we see it in Latino community. On one hand, they are in crisis mode, but they are underutilizing the resources that are available. So we are trying to bridge that gap for Muslim community. I work in all minoritized settings, even with LGBTQ population. We see this trust deficit and fear of being judged and fear of not being treated okay. So that is the problem. But right now, another aspect that I have to take on as a Muslim mental health provider is advocacy. We, I, if I think that has become part of your continuum of care. You have to advocate because Muslim community is very traumatized right now, very vulnerable. If we look at the hate crimes have quadrupled, and this is not just phobia, this is prejudice. We all are feeling the effects of it. Was I afraid post 9/11? I was not. Am I apprehensive and scared? I am now. Do I fear for myself and my kids for being so visibly outspoken and being a Muslim? I'm more afraid now than I ever was.
Oh, oh, wow. Well, that's sad to hear, but I understand. Like again, I'm not. I was raised Christian, but with the anti Jewish sentiment here in the country right now, like I probably I wouldn't put anything like indicating
So
I would
even on that, like
I
I was
I
saying,
wouldn't be advertising it. I'd be scared of being attacked for having Jewish
right.
blood, to be honest with you. Like,
So I would also say that
yeah.
anti-Semitism or anti-Muslim racism are two sides of the same coin. The people who spew hate against Jewish population are the people hating Muslims as well. You don't see a Muslim hating Jewish counterpart. Um, so you don't see that hate crimes. So to me, it doesn't make sense that Muslims are against anyone, right? We are not anti-Semitic because we always feel an alliance actually. So to me, it's very heartbreaking that I wish Gaza was not being taken in terms of a holy war. That's doing a big disservice because there are Jewish people living in Gaza who are standing up, who are getting affected, who are getting hurt in this conflict, in this bombing. It's not only Muslims who are dying, there are Jewish people who have alliance with Muslim living in Gaza getting impacted as well. So to me, it doesn't make sense. But yes, like I saw, it was easy to continue the war in Afghanistan when it became jihadis fighting the infidels. And at that time, where were these Talibans being trained and given war training? In America? They were coming here, getting trained, or they were American generals, American trainers were coming to Pakistan to train them.
Wow.
Did Pakistan thought they will turn against us, or did America think that they will come turn against them? So that's what I say, that don't think that things just happen in Gaza are gonna, or Afghanistan are gonna stay there. In the end, if your actions are not well-intentioned, if you are going with short-term policies that let this happen right now, it doesn't. These wounds fester and do infect our society. It does come to harm us in the end.
Well, let's I guess I want to give you the app. So how would you like to close up this? I mean, you're for our audience, anybody listening, you've just shared so many like
I think my most important thing that I'm working on right now, and I will leave with that. I love this quote that we preserve what we love what we know, and we know what we are taught.
I love that. I love it.
So love is a very learned behavior, except instinctive with the mother or, blood relationships. It's mostly instinctive. But it's a learned behavior, and so is hatred.
Mm.
It's time to unlearn and relearn how to love each other. It's very important that we learn to coexist.
Well, I think conversations like this help,
I
because
hope so.
I don't know how to, I'm just grateful for the discourse and the dialogue and your willingness to talk about it and your faith and your culture. And I hope I learned a lot, and hope maybe we'll have you, and this is a show about mental health, and which affects it. It doesn't know age or class or race. We're all affected. We're all humans around the globe, and we're all experience, to your point, love and hate and death and joy. And I'd like to see more joy. Okay.
Absolutely. I will.
All right. Well, you have a good night. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Abbasi.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure meeting you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for another episode of American Mood Swings, where we talk about the brain and all things mental health. Hope to see you next week, and please share with your friends.